Hey folks, welcome back to Stoic Quotes 365. Let me ask you this. Have you ever felt a quiet void, one that whispers in the background of your busy life? Maybe you're surrounded by people, scrolling through endless social media feeds, yet there's a sense of detachment you just can't shake. That yearning for something real, something deeper, something that makes you feel truly seen. Sound familiar? You're not alone. Connection, real human connection, is one of the most powerful forces shaping our lives. And yet, it's becoming harder to find than ever. Here's the twist. What if the person with the most profound insights into this universal struggle isn't who you'd expect? What if someone whose job is often judged and misunderstood could teach us the deepest truths about human connection? Imagine learning lessons about vulnerability, trust, and healing from a sex worker. Surprised? That's exactly why this conversation is so important. Because sometimes the most profound wisdom comes from the places society overlooks. We're going to dive deep into the nature of connection, why we crave it, why we push it away, and how understanding it can transform not just our relationships, but how we see ourselves. Whether you're a man or a woman, single or in a relationship, this isn't about romance alone. It's about peeling back the layers of human interaction to uncover what truly makes us thrive. Let me ask you, how often do you really feel understood? Not just listened to, but genuinely seen? For many, the answer is rarely. It's not because we're incapable of connecting. It's because we've built barriers, emotional, social, even cultural, that keep us apart. And here's the kicker. It's not entirely our fault. Society conditions us to hide our struggles, mask our vulnerabilities, and pretend we're fine when we're anything but. This is where the lessons begin. True connection isn't about surface-level exchanges or grand gestures. It's about understanding the unspoken, respecting someone's humanity, and creating a space where both people feel safe to be their authentic selves. And yes, sometimes it takes someone outside the conventional boundaries, a sex worker, a counselor, or even a stranger, to remind us of this truth. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest philosophers of his time, said, "People exist for one another. Teach them or bear with them." It's a simple yet profound reminder that our purpose is inherently tied to connection. But here's the thing. Meaningful connection doesn't just happen. It requires intentionality. In this video, we'll uncover 7 life-changing insights about connection that have the power to reshape how you approach every relationship in your life. These are not just theories. They're actionable steps you can take to understand others better, to be understood yourself, and to forge bonds that endure. We'll talk about breaking emotional barriers, dismantling the societal expectations that isolate us, and discovering the kind of intimacy that heals and transforms. But there's more. Connection isn't just about healing ourselves. It's about creating a ripple effect in the lives of those around us. Imagine being the person who lifts others up, who offers understanding in a world full of judgment. Imagine building relationships so strong they become your sanctuary in the chaos of life. So, what's in it for you? By the end of this video, you'll not only understand why connection is so vital, but also how to cultivate it in ways that truly matter. You'll learn how to let go of the masks society encourages us to wear, how to navigate the fears that keep us from connecting, and how to rewrite the rules to create relationships that are fulfilling for both you and those you care about. This isn't just about ideas. It's about transformation. Whether you're seeking deeper relationships, a stronger sense of self, or simply a greater understanding of what it means to be human, the answers lie ahead. So stick around, because what you're about to discover might just change the way you see yourself and everyone around you. Ready to unlock these powerful truths? Let's dive in. Number 1. The healing power of connection. Why everyone craves to be seen. Hey folks, let's talk about something we all secretly long for, but rarely admit. We all crave connection. Whether we realize it or not, the need to feel seen and understood is a fundamental part of being human. And when we're deprived of that, it feels like a piece of our identity is missing, doesn't it? Picture this. You're surrounded by people, friends, family, co-workers, but somehow you feel invisible. You smile, laugh, and go through the motions, yet there's this quiet ache inside. That ache, my friends, is the hunger to be truly seen for who you are. Beyond the surface, beyond the polite exchanges, it's the need for someone to look at you and say, "I get you." Why do we crave this so much? The answer lies in our very biology. Human beings are wired for connection. We thrive in communities, find purpose in relationships, and build our sense of self through meaningful interactions. Even the Stoic philosophers, who emphasize self-reliance, understood this. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "What brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee." Our well-being is intricately tied to our ability to connect with others. But here's the catch. In a world where surface-level interactions dominate, true connection is becoming rare. We've traded depth for convenience, intimacy for likes and follows. Yet, deep down, we all want more than that. We want someone to acknowledge our struggles, celebrate our victories, and just sit with us in moments of silence without expecting anything in return. Let me share a story that illustrates this beautifully. There was a man who hadn't been hugged in years. After losing his wife, he found himself isolated, consumed by grief. One day, he reached out to someone, not for advice, not for answers, but simply for presence. That one moment of connection changed everything. He felt seen for the first time in years. It wasn't the words that mattered. It was the act of being there, of recognizing his humanity. And this isn't just about extreme cases like loss or loneliness. Think about your own life. Have you ever had a conversation where someone truly listened to you, without judgment or distraction? It's rare, isn't it? But when it happens, it feels like a balm to the soul. That's the healing power of connection. Now, let's address something important. This need isn't limited to any gender or demographic. Men, women, young, old, we're all seeking connection in one way or another, but the way society conditions us often gets in the way. For men, there's this unspoken rule to suppress vulnerability. For women, it's the expectation to always be emotionally available for others. Both are traps that keep us from forming the bonds we truly need. Connection doesn't mean grand gestures or perfect conversations. It's about showing up authentically, being present, and giving someone the gift of your undivided attention. It's about making someone feel, even if just for a moment, that they matter. This is where the magic happens. When you connect with someone on this level, you're not just fulfilling a need, you're creating a ripple effect. That person carries the feeling forward, spreading it to others. It's like lighting a candle in a dark room. The glow spreads, one person at a time. So, let me ask you, have you experienced the healing power of connection lately? If not, what's stopping you from reaching out? And if you have, who's that one person who makes you feel truly seen? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your stories. And folks, don't go anywhere yet. This is just the beginning. Up next, we're diving into the hidden struggles that keep so many of us from forming these connections in the first place. You don't want to miss this. Number 2, breaking emotional barriers. The hidden struggles men face. Let's talk about something we don't discuss enough: the hidden emotional struggles men face. It's a topic often swept under the rug, yet it quietly impacts countless lives. If you're a man watching this, you might feel this deep down. If you're a woman, chances are you've seen it in the men around you. The silent battles they fight, the emotions they suppress, and the walls they build. So let's break this down together. From the earliest years, boys are taught a very clear lesson. Vulnerability is weakness. Phrases like "man up" or "real men don't cry" get thrown around casually, but their impact is profound. These words don't just discourage emotional expression. They create a cage. A man learns to bottle up his feelings, to present a strong exterior, even when he's breaking inside. He learns that showing sadness or fear could invite ridicule, judgment, or rejection. This conditioning doesn't just happen at home. It's reinforced everywhere, in schoolyards, on sports teams, in movies, and in workplaces. Men are praised for their stoicism, their ability to push through pain and challenges without complaint. But here's the paradox. While society admires this strength, it also isolates men, cutting them off from the support they desperately need. Let's pause for a moment. Imagine being told your entire life that your worth is tied to how tough, successful, or unemotional you can be. Imagine carrying the weight of expectations to always have it together, to always provide, to never falter. It's exhausting, isn't it? And yet, this is the reality for so many men. The result? Emotional barriers so high and thick that even the people closest to them can't break through. Men might appear distant, uninterested, or even cold. But often, this isn't who they are. It's a defense mechanism, a way to protect themselves from the vulnerability they've been taught to fear. Here's the kicker. These barriers don't just hurt men, they hurt everyone around them. When men can't express their emotions, relationships suffer, partners feel shut out, children grow up without emotional role models, and friendships become shallow. It's a cycle that perpetuates itself, leaving men even more isolated. But let's dig deeper. Why do these barriers persist? Fear is a big part of it. Fear of judgment, fear of appearing weak, fear of being vulnerable and getting hurt. There's also a lack of tools. Many men simply don't know how to process their emotions because they were never taught. Instead, they're left to navigate life's challenges with the emotional equivalent of a blunt tool. The Stoics had a lot to say about fear and control. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And this applies here perfectly. Emotional barriers aren't external, they're internal constructs. And while it's hard, breaking them is possible. It starts with self-awareness, with recognizing the barriers we've built and why. For men, this might mean allowing themselves to feel uncomfortable emotions, even if it feels unnatural at first. It might mean opening up to a trusted friend or partner, taking that first step toward vulnerability. For women, it means creating a safe space, encouraging and supporting the men in their lives to express themselves without fear of judgment. Breaking emotional barriers isn't about becoming someone else. It's about rediscovering the parts of yourself you've been taught to hide. It's about reclaiming your humanity and giving yourself permission to feel, to connect, and to be authentic. Let me ask you, what barriers have you built? What fears hold you back from truly connecting with others? And how can we, as a society, do better to support men in their emotional journeys? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Don't go anywhere yet. Our next topic dives even deeper into the masks we all wear and how they keep us disconnected. You'll want to stick around for this one. It's eye-opening. Number 3. Tearing down the mask. How society shapes emotional isolation. Let's dive into something most people don't talk about. the mask society teaches us to wear. It's not a literal mask, of course, but a figurative one that so many of us adopt to survive. It's the persona we put on to meet expectations, avoid vulnerability, and appear strong. But here's the thing. That mask doesn't just protect, it isolates. Society plays a significant role in shaping emotional isolation, especially for men. From a young age, boys are bombarded with messages about what it means to be a real man. Strength, toughness, and independence are praised, while emotions, vulnerability, and softness are dismissed or mocked. We hear it in phrases like, "Don't cry," "Man up," and "Don't be a sissy." These words might seem harmless, but they plant seeds that grow into towering walls. Let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. Why does society value this kind of emotional stoicism? Part of it comes from outdated survival instincts. In ancient times, showing fear or weakness could mean danger, vulnerability to predators, or losing status in a group. While we've evolved as a species, some of these old ideas linger, embedded in our cultural fabric. But here's the problem. The world has changed, and these outdated expectations no longer serve us. Instead, they create disconnection. They push people to hide their true feelings, to suppress their needs, and to build emotional walls so high that even their closest loved ones can't break through. It's a tragedy. Really, this notion that vulnerability is weakness, when, in truth, it's one of the greatest strengths we possess. Think about it. How often do we see men in movies or media portrayed as stoic, unfeeling, and always in control? These images reinforce the idea that to be valued, one must fit into a rigid mold. And it's not just men who suffer from this narrative. Women, too, are often conditioned to expect these traits from men, creating a feedback loop that keeps everyone stuck. But let's pause for a moment. If you're wearing a mask every day, what does that do to your soul? Pretending to be someone you're not is exhausting. It creates a constant tension between who you are and who you think you're supposed to be. Over time, that tension can lead to loneliness, depression, and even anger, because when you can't express what's inside, it festers. The irony is that the very thing society discourages, vulnerability, is what connects us most deeply. Brené Brown, a researcher on vulnerability, says, "Vulnerability is the birthplace of connection and the path to the feeling of worthiness. If it doesn't feel vulnerable, the sharing is probably not constructive." This is a profound truth. When we tear down the mask and let others see our authentic selves, we create the possibility for real relationships. But tearing down the mask isn't easy. It requires unlearning years, sometimes decades, of conditioning. It means questioning the rules we've been taught to follow, asking ourselves tough questions like, why do I feel the need to hide? And what am I afraid of? For many, the answer is fear of rejection or judgment. But here's the truth. The people who truly matter in your life won't judge you for being real. They'll embrace it. How do we begin to dismantle this societal conditioning? It starts with small acts of courage, sharing a feeling with a trusted friend, admitting when we're struggling, or even just acknowledging our own emotions. For those supporting someone on this journey, patience and understanding are key. Create spaces where people feel safe to be themselves without fear of criticism. Society may have shaped emotional isolation, but we have the power to reshape it. By challenging the norms, by choosing authenticity over appearances, we can slowly change the narrative. We can create a world where connection is valued over perfection, where people are celebrated for who they are, not for the masks they wear. What masks have you worn, or have you seen others wear? How do you think society can shift to encourage authenticity? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Stick around for the next part, It's going to get even deeper as we explore the consequences of this emotional isolation and what it costs us all. You don't want to miss it. Number 4. The consequences of loneliness. From silence to violence. Let's talk about loneliness, a silent force that often goes unnoticed until it's too late. It's not just about feeling alone in a room, it's about a deeper disconnection, a void that echoes through someone's entire existence. Loneliness doesn't just affect the individual, it ripples out, influencing relationships, communities, and even society at large. And in its most extreme form, loneliness can transform from silence into violence. It starts small. Imagine someone feeling isolated, yearning for connection, but unable to bridge the gap. Maybe they've been told too many times to tough it out or man up. They suppress their feelings, putting on a brave face while their internal world crumbles. Over time, this emotional isolation creates a pressure cooker. Without an outlet, that pressure builds and builds until something gives. Studies show that loneliness can impact both mental and physical health. Depression, anxiety, and low self-esteem often walk hand in hand with chronic loneliness. The body reacts too, with increased stress hormones leading to higher blood pressure, weakened immunity, and a higher risk of heart disease. But what's even more alarming is how loneliness affects behavior, particularly in men, who are often socialized to avoid seeking help. For men, the stigma surrounding emotional vulnerability can turn loneliness into anger or aggression. Without tools to process rejection, loss, or alienation, some lash out. Joe Ehrmann, a former NFL player, once said, "Boys who can't cry shoot bullets." It's a chilling observation, but one rooted in truth. When men are denied healthy outlets for their emotions, they're more likely to express them through destructive behaviors. This isn't just speculation, the numbers back it up. Loneliness and emotional repression are linked to domestic violence, substance abuse, and even mass violence. In the United States alone, a significant number of violent crimes can be traced back to individuals struggling with deep isolation and emotional disconnection. These aren't inherently bad people. They're individuals who've been taught to bottle up their pain until it explodes. Women, too, experience loneliness, but often in different ways. Society often allows women to express their emotions more freely, but even so, they can feel isolated by unrealistic expectations, social pressure, or life circumstances. Loneliness doesn't discriminate. It finds its way into everyone's life at some point. But how it manifests can vary. With men's loneliness more likely to be externalized through aggression, while women may internalize it, leading to depression or self-harm. The consequences of loneliness aren't always dramatic or violent. Sometimes they're subtle but equally devastating. Think of someone withdrawing from loved ones, unable to maintain relationships or pursue their goals. Over time, this can lead to a sense of hopelessness and a belief that they're unworthy of connection. That's the cruel irony of loneliness. The more isolated someone feels, the harder it becomes to reach out for help. But here's where we can turn things around. Awareness is the first step. By recognizing the signs of loneliness in ourselves and others, we can begin to address it before it spirals out of control. This isn't just about saying, "I'm here if you need me." It's about actively creating spaces where people feel seen, heard, and valued. It's about normalizing vulnerability and encouraging open conversations about mental health. For men especially, breaking the silence is crucial. We need to dismantle the harmful messages that equate emotional expression with weakness. Strength isn't about holding everything in. It's about knowing when to ask for help. For women, it's about recognizing their own experiences of loneliness and finding ways to bridge the gap with others who might be struggling silently. Stoic philosophy offers a powerful perspective here. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." In the context of loneliness, this reminds us that while we can't always control our circumstances, we can choose how we respond to them. Seeking connection, even in small ways, can be a radical act of courage. Let's not underestimate the power of community. Whether it's through a trusted friend, a support group, or even an online space, finding connection can transform loneliness into healing. And for those who see someone struggling, be the one to reach out. A simple act of kindness, a text, a phone call, or just sitting in silence with someone can make all the difference. How has loneliness shaped your life or the lives of those around you? Have you found ways to turn isolation into connection? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your experiences. And stick around for the next part, where we'll explore how empathy and emotional strength can rewrite the rules of human connection. You won't want to miss it. Number 5. Rewriting the rules. Teaching empathy and emotional strength. Let's take a moment to reimagine how we approach human connection. For too long, many of us have been living by outdated rules that discourage emotional vulnerability and empathy. These unspoken guidelines often teach us to view emotions as weaknesses, especially for men, and to prioritize self-reliance over meaningful connection. But here's the thing. What if those rules are the very reason so many of us feel disconnected and misunderstood? It's time to rewrite the playbook, to teach empathy and emotional strength as the pillars of a truly fulfilling life. Empathy is often misunderstood as being overly sensitive or weak, but nothing could be further from the truth. Empathy requires courage, the courage to step into someone else's world, to see their struggles, and to offer understanding rather than judgment. This ability to connect on a deeper level isn't just good for relationships. It's a fundamental human skill that strengthens communities and builds trust. Marcus Aurelius captured this perfectly when he wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to think, to enjoy, to love." Empathy, at its core, is an expression of love and understanding for the shared human experience. One of the most powerful ways to foster empathy is by modeling it in our daily lives. Think about the messages we send to children, particularly boys. From a young age, they're often told to suppress their feelings, to avoid being soft, and to prioritize toughness over kindness. These messages don't just create emotional barriers. They deprive boys of the tools they need to navigate the complexities of life. By encouraging children to express their emotions, validate their experiences, and approach others with compassion, we can begin to dismantle these harmful narratives. Teaching emotional strength goes hand in hand with fostering empathy. Emotional strength isn't about ignoring or suppressing emotions. It's about understanding them, managing them, and using them as a source of resilience. This kind of strength allows individuals to face challenges with clarity and resolve, rather than being overwhelmed by fear or anger. Imagine a world where emotional intelligence is valued as much as academic or athletic achievement. What kind of relationships would we build? What kind of leaders would we create? For adults, rewriting these rules often means unlearning decades of harmful conditioning. It's about recognizing that asking for help or admitting vulnerability doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. This shift in mindset can be transformative. When we embrace empathy and emotional strength, we create spaces where people feel safe to be themselves, free from judgment or shame. And when people feel seen and heard, they're more likely to extend that same understanding to others. creating a ripple effect of connection and compassion. Empathy and emotional strength also play a crucial role in bridging divides. In a world that often feels polarized and fragmented, the ability to see the humanity in others is more important than ever. Whether it's in personal relationships, workplace dynamics, or broader social interactions, these qualities help us find common ground and work towards solutions rather than conflicts. They remind us that, at our core, we all share the same fundamental desires: to be loved, respected, and understood. So, how can we start teaching these values in our own lives? It begins with small, intentional actions. Listen more than you speak. When someone shares their feelings, resist the urge to offer quick fixes or dismiss their concerns. Instead, acknowledge their perspective and let them know their emotions are valid. Practice self-awareness, taking the time to understand your own triggers and responses so you can approach challenges with empathy rather than defensiveness. And above all, lead by example. Show others what it means to live with emotional integrity and compassion. Of course, rewriting the rules isn't always easy. It requires patience, introspection, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths about ourselves and the world around us. But the rewards are immense. By fostering empathy and emotional strength, we not only enrich our own lives, but also create a culture that values connection over competition, understanding over judgment. What do you think about this new approach to empathy and emotional resilience? Have you ever experienced a moment where someone's compassion made a difference in your life? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And stay tuned. Our next segment will explore how true intimacy has the power to transform lives in ways we often overlook. You won't want to miss it. Number 6. Beyond stereotypes. How true intimacy transforms lives. True intimacy has a profound impact on our lives, yet it's often misunderstood. Many of us have grown up with stereotypes about what intimacy should look like, shaped by societal norms, movies, and expectations. But let's challenge those preconceived ideas for a moment. Intimacy isn't just about romantic gestures or physical connection. It's about being deeply seen and accepted for who you are. When we break free from stereotypes, we unlock the transformative power of true intimacy. One of the most harmful misconceptions about intimacy is that it has to be romantic or sexual. This limited view overlooks the rich connections we can form with friends, family, and even ourselves. True intimacy is rooted in trust, vulnerability, and mutual understanding. It's the moment when someone listens without judgment, when you share your fears without fear of rejection, and when you feel safe enough to let your guard down. These moments can occur in any relationship and have the potential to change lives. For many, the path to intimacy is blocked by societal expectations. Men, for instance, are often taught to prioritize independence and stoicism over vulnerability. Women, on the other hand, may face pressure to prioritize others' needs over their own, often at the expense of their emotional well-being. These gendered stereotypes not only limit our ability to connect with others, but also prevent us from forming a deep connection with ourselves. Let's consider an example. Have you ever had a moment when someone truly saw you? Not the version of yourself you present to the world, but the real you? That feeling of being understood can be life-changing. It affirms your worth and reminds you that you're not alone in your struggles. For many, this experience is rare because our relationships are often built on superficial interactions. But when true intimacy enters the picture, it transforms those relationships into sources of strength and healing. The benefits of true intimacy extend beyond personal relationships. Research shows that people who experience deep, Meaningful connections are healthier and happier. They're less likely to suffer from depression, anxiety, and chronic stress. This isn't surprising when you think about it. When you feel supported and understood, life's challenges become more manageable. Intimacy provides a sense of belonging, reminding us that we're part of something greater than ourselves. True intimacy also challenges the notion that strength lies in self-reliance. Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "A man's worth is no greater than the worth of his ambitions." When we seek intimacy, we're pursuing something truly valuable: connection. It takes courage to let someone into your world, to share your dreams, and to trust that they won't judge you for your imperfections. But in doing so, we discover a deeper sense of strength. Not the strength to stand alone, but the strength to stand together. Breaking down stereotypes about intimacy requires us to rethink how we approach relationships. It starts with communication. Are you expressing your needs openly, or are you assuming that others should automatically understand them? Are you listening to what others are truly saying, or are you filtering their words through your own assumptions? Honest, empathetic communication is the foundation of intimacy, and it requires effort from both sides. It also requires us to embrace vulnerability. This might feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you're used to keeping your emotions guarded. But vulnerability isn't a weakness, it's an act of courage. When you're willing to share your authentic self, you create space for others to do the same. This mutual openness fosters trust and deepens connections in ways that superficial interactions never can. True intimacy isn't about perfection. It's about showing up, flaws and all, and being met with acceptance. It's about the small moments, the shared laughter, the quiet understanding, the unspoken support during difficult times. These moments may seem ordinary, but they have the power to transform our lives. They remind us that we're not defined by our achievements or failures, but by the relationships we build and nurture. What does intimacy mean to you? Have you experienced a moment when a connection changed your perspective or helped you grow? Let's explore this journey together in the next segment, where we'll discuss redefining masculinity through compassion and emotional strength. You won't want to miss it. Number 7. A new vision of masculinity. Compassion as the ultimate strength. Masculinity has been confined by stereotypes for far too long, and it's time to redefine what it truly means to be a strong man. For generations, strength in men has been equated with physical dominance, emotional suppression, and a lone wolf mindset. But as the world evolves, so too must our understanding of masculinity. True strength isn't found in aggression or detachment, it's found in compassion. Let's start by confronting a common misconception. Compassion is often seen as weakness. This couldn't be further from the truth. Compassion requires courage, empathy, and the ability to put someone else's needs before your own, a trait that is anything but weak. Marcus Aurelius, a Stoic philosopher, wisely noted, "Kindness is invincible," and it's true. Kindness disarms conflict, fosters trust, and builds connections that are unshakable. A compassionate man isn't one who lacks strength. He's one who understands how to channel it constructively. In today's society, many men are taught to suppress their emotions, fearing that vulnerability will make them appear less manly. But vulnerability is the gateway to empathy, and empathy is the foundation of meaningful relationships. A man who can connect with others emotionally isn't just a better partner or friend. He's a leader, a protector, and someone others naturally gravitate toward. Compassion also redefines what leadership looks like. Historically, leadership in men has often been associated with control and authority. But true leadership is about service, putting others first, guiding with wisdom, and supporting those around you. Think about the most respected leaders in history. They weren't revered for their dominance. They were admired for their ability to inspire and uplift others. A compassionate man leads not by fear, but by example. For men, embracing compassion means dismantling the toxic idea that emotions are a liability. Anger, frustration, and fear are natural human experiences, but how they're expressed defines who you are. Instead of suppressing emotions, compassion allows you to process them in healthy ways, turning challenges into opportunities for growth. This shift doesn't just benefit you, it impacts everyone around you, creating a ripple effect of positivity and understanding. Compassion also plays a critical role in romantic relationships. Many men believe they need to be stoic providers, hiding their struggles to avoid burdening their partners. But emotional openness creates deeper intimacy. When you share your feelings, it signals trust and respect, fostering a partnership where both individuals feel valued. Compassion isn't about fixing everything. It's about being present, listening, and showing that you care. In friendships, compassion strengthens bonds that withstand the test of time. Men often form relationships around shared activities, like sports or work, but these connections can lack depth if emotions are off limits. By showing compassion, you create space for honesty and support, turning surface-level interactions into meaningful connections. A compassionate friend is someone you can count on in good times and bad, a rare and invaluable presence. But compassion isn't just outward-facing. It starts with yourself. Self-compassion is the cornerstone of growth and resilience. How often do you judge yourself harshly for mistakes or perceived shortcomings? Instead of tearing yourself down, imagine treating yourself with the same kindness you'd offer a friend. When you practice self-compassion, you build confidence and self-worth, making it easier to extend empathy to others. Society often glorifies men who are unyielding, but unyielding strength is brittle. Compassion, on the other hand, is adaptable, enduring, and transformative. It's the kind of strength that can face adversity without breaking, that can connect with others without fear of rejection, and that can inspire change in a world that desperately needs it. So, how do we embrace this new vision of masculinity? It starts with small, intentional steps. Reach out to a friend who's struggling. Listen without judgment when someone shares their feelings. Take responsibility for your actions and learn from your mistakes. Show kindness, even when it's difficult. Each act of compassion reinforces the message that strength and empathy go hand in hand. This isn't just a personal journey, it's a cultural shift. When men redefine strength as compassion, they pave the way for healthier relationships, stronger communities, and a more empathetic society. By embodying this new vision of masculinity, you're not only transforming your own life, you're setting an example for others to follow. Ask yourself, what kind of man do you want to be? The one who hides behind a facade of stoicism, or the one who leads with compassion and integrity? The choice is yours, and the impact is immeasurable. Thank you for being part of this journey today. If this video inspired you, share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so we can continue exploring these powerful ideas together. Until next time, stay strong, stay kind, and keep growing. See you soon.